Fox News' own Bill Melugin joins us, a man who's reporting from the border, among other fantastic things about the man. Clay, we'll get to that in a second. Reporting from the border has been phenomenal. And Bill, appreciate you joining us, making the time.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
What are you seeing? I'll start with this one. What are you seeing most recently, day to day? What is the situation like at the U.S.-Mexico border?
So the illegal crossings have dropped this year, but you kind of have to look at what they're doing out of the public eye. So we're not seeing as many people walking across the river, kind of all those images you were seeing over the last few years. So what is happening now? Well, 70 to 80,000 people are coming in every month through these quote-unquote lawful programs that the Biden administration created to cut down on illegal crossings. So what are those programs? They're the controversial ones you keep hearing about. That CBP One cell phone app, they're bringing in 1,500 migrants every single day with that. They show up at a port of entry with an appointment on their cell phone. They go to a bridge. CBP releases them into the country. There's also the Migrant Flights Parole Program, the CHNV program, where they are letting migrants fly into the United States. So between those two programs, the flight program has up to 30,000 a month, and then the CBP One app has 1,500 a day. You've got 70,000 to 80,000 migrants coming into the country via those two programs every single month, and they are never counted in southern border numbers. It's pretty wild.
Bill, you do phenomenal work. I have to imagine that you were flying around in a helicopter somewhere on the border. You're reporting breaking news all the time for Fox News. And then you happen to look down at your phone and see that Clay Travis, Fox News guy, and also radio guy, has branded you the best-looking man or woman on Fox News. What were the mentions like, and have your mentions ever looked like that before?
Oh, man, it was incredible. I was laughing my ass off. I was working in Chicago, actually. I was filling in at our bureau there. And then my phone just started blowing up with, like, a bunch of guy friends, girlfriends sending me the link to your tweet. And I started seeing the memes people were making with the AI deepfakes and all that. And, man, I was cracking up. It was hilarious. One of the better things I've seen. It got a lot of traffic, man. Good stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we got kind of a big show here. We had a lot of fun with it. But you are, and this is actually really important, I think, there was substantial amounts of time when you were, it felt like, the only reporter at the entire border covering it at all, right? It wasn't, and this is a major issue. Did you ever sit around to yourself thinking, how in the world is no one else here, right? Such that you could have a beat like that. Like you said, you're in Chicago. I don't know. There'll probably be 100 people who show up for a Chicago Cubs press briefing, right? Like, oh, people like the Cubs, White Sox, whatever. And yet there's nobody that actually even hardly covers the border at all. What does that say? And do you ever look around when you're doing this reporting and think to yourself, it's stunning how few people are actually willing to spend the time to tell people what's happening here?
Yeah, Clay, basically every day for a couple of years, I was just in disbelief because we would have these major breaking news events going. I mean, we all remember the 20,000 Haitians under the bridge in Del Rio. We were the first ones out there for 3 days before any other media outlet ever showed up. And that played out over and over in 2021, 2022, early parts of 2023. We would have these just insane days of mass illegal crossings, nonstop, total free-for-all. We'd have our drones in the air. We'd be showing everything nonstop. And only towards the tail end of it would other national media outlets finally show up. And then when they did show up, they would cover something else, like with the Haitians. They weren't talking about the 20,000 people violating the sovereignty of the United States walking in. They were talking about the false narrative that spread that Border Patrol agents were whipping Haitians. That was the narrative that started going around. So when they did show up to cover it, it was talking about the plight of the migrants or this or that, never about the national security concerns, never about the mass catch and release. And it was just wild to watch that over the years. Now, what finally changed that, in my opinion, was when Governor Abbott finally started sending busloads of migrants to these blue sanctuary cities. Then the border got brought to them. Then all of a sudden they started seeing what was happening to their city budgets and what was happening in their city streets. They started caring a little bit more. Then it got more into the headlines. But, yeah, I mean, it was a total free-for-all down there for a couple of years, and there seemed to be little to zero interest from any other media outside of Fox News and maybe News Nation, New York Post, and some of the other outlets.
Speaking of Bill Melugin of Fox News, who does phenomenal reporting from down on the border. And Bill, to that end, I'm just wondering if you've experienced this, because I saw a little of it my few times down there. Are you getting a different level of access and just a different level of information sharing from government agencies that deal with the border under the Biden administration that you did, say, under the Trump administration, or has it been uniform for you?
It's been night and day different under the Biden administration. Let me put it this way. In all my years covering the border under the Biden administration, I've not gotten one single ride along with Border Patrol. Not a single one. I've done it. Yeah. I've done it with Texas DPS a million times. The only way we're able to get any information from this Biden administration DHS is to have sources leak it to us. Now, thankfully, doing this work over the last few years, I got a ton of sources in Border Patrol, CBP, ICE, and they do leak stuff to us because they trust me and they know I'm not going to burn them at this point. But trying to get anything from this administration is like trying to draw water from a rock. I mean, for God's sake, a couple months ago, I filed a Freedom of Information Act request just to get the nationalities of people arrested on the terror watch list by Border Patrol. They rejected it and said the privacy of those terror suspects outweighs any public interest in it. So then I appealed, and they denied my appeal. Exact same reasoning, that they think it would give up national security information, and they have to respect the privacy of terror suspects. I mean, it's absolutely insane. Trying to get anything out of these folks, it just makes you want to bang your head against the wall, guys.
We're talking to Bill Melugin, Fox News. Bill, you saw what happened when Trump was replaced by Joe Biden. The border completely changes. Kamala Harris now says, hey, I'll build a border wall. We're going to hire a bunch of new Border Patrol people. That, I think, is her playing to the middle part of the country. Based on your experience covering the border, if Kamala wins, will we see what we saw when Biden won all over again?
I think you will, because she was part of the administration and she stood by the policies that unraveled all of the Trump-era policies. She stood up there in 2019 and said she wants to close every ICE detention facility on day number one. She said she wants to decriminalize illegal crossings. She said a border wall isn't necessary. It's racist. Now she's using that border wall in her ads. I mean, has she had a sudden change of heart? Maybe, but a lot of what she's saying is coming from anonymous campaign officials who won't go on the record. Until we hear it directly from her mouth about what she's going to do at the border, she can say she wants more Border Patrol funding and this and that, but you got to look at her track record. I mean, she says she wants more funding now, but in 2018, she was sending letters to her Senate colleagues urging them to not vote for funding for ICE and Border Patrol because it was the Trump administration back then. So we all know the Democrats have to deal with the far left wing of their party, the open borders activist part of their party, and they got a hold of the Biden administration early on because look what happened at the border. They literally unraveled every single thing that Trump did, even some of the stuff that would have worked. They stopped a national declaration of emergency at the border on day number one. That just gives more resources. So, look, until Kamala Harris proves otherwise, I think that, yes, if she gets back into office, you're likely going to see probably similar policies to what they had under the Biden administration because she is part of the Biden administration.
Bill Melugin, everybody, of Fox News. We've got, Bill, are you in Springfield? Is that right?
I'm in Springfield, yeah. I was just at the town hall with Vivek Ramaswamy last night with all the locals.
Do you have a minute to tell us about it? I know you got to go, but we wanted to at least throw it out there if you got a second. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So just a lot of frustration. This town has, I think, a little over upwards of 60,000 people in it, and in recent years they've had more than 15,000 Haitian migrants show up. Some of them through legal programs like the CBP One app and those migrant flights I was talking about. But, I mean, you're talking 20% of the city is now Haitian migrants that don't speak the language, that don't know the culture. The locals say they don't really know how to drive. They're always getting into car accidents. Housing prices are going up because slumlords are essentially having 20 of them pack into a house and charging them lower rent than they would the locals who live out here. But they're just really frustrated with the federal government for allowing so many Haitians to come in. They're frustrated with their local leaders. They say they're not paying any attention to them. So they were thrilled when Vivek came in last night and basically gave them an open microphone to sound off on everything. And they're pissed off that a lot of the country and some of the media has said they're racist for speaking out about this. They said race has nothing to do with it, that they feel the same way if it was 20,000 Swedish coming in. They're basically just telling Americans, like, imagine living in a town of 50,000 and having 15 to 20,000 foreigners show up in your town overnight and already stretched, depleted city resources. Like, one of the biggest complaints we were hearing is it's taking forever for people to get medical appointments out here. The wait times are really, really long because the Haitians have saturated the medical care system out here. So now the governor of Ohio says to try to fix some of that, he's going to open up a mobile health clinic in Springfield next week. But those are just a few of the issues. I mean, it's small town Ohio. It's below the poverty line. It's a pretty rough town. The people here are really kind, and they've just been thrust into the national spotlight. Again, 15 to 20,000 Haitians showing up here, obviously major cultural differences, economic issues. And last night they finally felt like they got their voices heard a little bit. Trump says he's going to visit here in recent weeks, but the Republican mayor of the town doesn't want him to come, says Trump would deplete resources even further. And that if he decided not to come, it would be a, quote, peaceful decision, whatever that means. So, I mean, it was good to hear from the folks out here, and it's just wild covering the border all these years and seeing all the Haitians at the border, and now going thousands of miles away to Springfield, Ohio, and having a little town out here just inundated with Haitians.
Bill Melugin, everybody, great reporting, great hair. Bill, appreciate you being with us, buddy.
Man,
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
And we'd honestly love you to
Thanks,
come
guys.
back to talk
Appreciate it.
more about the border as this gets closer to the election and afterwards, because one of our favorite issues here. Thanks for all you do.
Yep, happy to join anytime, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, there's no higher priority than protecting your family from harm. What security devices do you have at home? If the answer is none, or you've only got lethal options, let me tell you, you need to check out Sabre, a family-owned business that makes best-in-class security products. Sabre is spelled S-A-B-R-E. Their website is sabreradio.com. That's S-A-B-R-E radio.com. Sabre makes the #1 made-in-the-USA pepper spray, trusted by law enforcement and families across America. You guys know I work for the NYPD. I got tons of friends in law enforcement, and I've asked them, and they all say Sabre is simply the best in class. Accept no imitations. None of their competitors have the same level of craftsmanship and efficacy in these products. Sabre Pepper Projectile Launcher is a bestseller, a less lethal, fast-loading, no-recoil solution, delivering powerful stopping power up to 175 feet. And look, even if you don't have a perfect bullseye, the Sabre Pepper Projectile creates a 6-foot pepper cloud, which will cause intense sensory irritation and can help stop the threat. Protect yourself and your family with Sabre's full range of defense sprays, home security tools, and exclusive launcher bundles. Visit sabreradio.com. That's S-A-B-R-E radio.com, or call 844-824-SAFE. That's 844-824-SAFE.